Pragmata has already been forgotten. What we're seeing right now is that we're seeing leftists freak out about it over having a little girl in it, and then you have the pedophiles on the right trying to glaze it and trying to say it's secretly a pro-family message. As always, you have to come to me to get the truth behind the situation because both sides are completely wrong. This game is quite a bit more sinister and subversive than most people realize. And I only just now realized this because I was kind of sitting here thinking about it because, I think this is the worst game I've played in a long time. And for initially, I kind of chalked it up to the fact that, I don't play a ton of third-party games. I skip Monster Hunter Stories 3. I'm skipping a lot of Capcom products because, so much of it is just, super subversive and woke, okay? Capcom is one of the wokest Japanese companies right now. They're hiring a troon to promote this game. So when you look at, what they're doing and, the people involved in this, the entire cope among the right wing that this is somehow some base traditionalist game, it just isn't true. And it took me a while to put my finger on it because this is something that, is quite a bit different than other avenues of propaganda, right? And I think one of the major blind spots when it comes to the right wing is this idea that that our political enemies only control the left, they only control the commies, they only control the liberals. Bro, you're talking about people who control everything, okay? So what you have to do is acknowledge that the right wing are grifters. They're not going to do anything. They don't care about you. They're scum. We're not going to win until we acknowledge that both sides are retarded and actually figure out solutions to these problems. So, Pragmata is a really interesting scenario in which you're supposed to see the relationship between Hugh and Diana as being this based, wholesome, father-daughter thing. It's supposed to be pro-family. It's supposed to be pro-child. It's supposed to raise birth rates, right? It's supposed to be based. It's supposed to be it's supposed to somehow fix people's problems. And I was kind of thinking about this, the context of the game, what's actually happening in it, and I realized that this isn't actually true. Because what's actually happening in Pragmata is that Hugh meets an android, not an actual person, and treats her like an actual little girl. Treats her like his actual daughter, right? And that's the problem. Okay, this is the thing a lot of these right-wing grifters don't want to understand. This is what a lot of these weebs and these incels and these lolicons don't want to admit, is that the right-wing equivalent of the feminist pursuing her career over starting a family, the male equivalent of that is replacing relationships with real people with technology. So instead of going out and meeting an actual person, falling in love with her, starting a family with her, and spending the rest of your life with her, right? Instead, oh man, bro, just have this android, bro. She's the same thing as a little girl, bro. She looks the same, she acts the same. She's actually better than any real little girl because you don't have to put any effort in, you don't have to do anything. Just take her out of the box, assemble her, and boom, you have your little girl that you can interact with whenever you feel like it, right? And this is the problem with a lot of these technocrats, with a lot of these weebs, with a lot of these people, is that they don't treat others like actual people. They treat them like they're disposable and that you can just put them away until you're ready to use them again. So for example, for a lot of these people, they only want women for sex. So they only interact with women for sex. They don't get to know them as people. They don't get to talk to them. They don't get to go through their personal problems together. You don't go through rough patches, right? You just, download an app, get an AI girlfriend, and then just have her, have it obsessively just oh man, you're so amazing. Your cock is so big. That's what a lot of these people are doing. You see, how much glazing you see of games like Nikkei and fan servicey anime and stuff like that. And you realize that's kind of what's happening, is that dudes are replacing real relationship relationships with like these idealized fantasies, and then they get upset that the real thing isn't anything like those idealized fantasies. So instead of thinking that there's a real reason why women don't like them and like growing and evolving as people, they just kind of like retreat away and like just kind of like want to blame them for everything wrong in their lives instead of like taking charge and fixing their own problems, like I did. Like what you see with these people is that like the idea is that you replace real people with technology instead of actually like forming healthy relationships with other people. And Pragmata, from its conceptual level, is pushing that idea. Pragmata is encouraging it. Like, this is the reality behind Pragmata, in which, the other characters in the game, they don't matter, they're gone, it's entirely just Hugh and Diana in there, and they're entirely just interacting, it's entirely just them, and they just have these, like, wholesome, like, Chungus, like, conversations. And, like, the reality is, like, he's talking to an AI. It's going through the same issue that an AI has, in which it just blindly agrees with whatever you say with no real, like, regard for, like, its own opinions or its own thoughts or, like, being an independent unit. And I think that's one of the really interesting things about AI as we see it develop and how it's being incorporated in the business world and how people are trying to use it to replace their relationships, is that, like, it will never replace the real thing. I'm reminded very strongly of that Twilight Zone episode with that guy who's on the planet, the prison planet. He's in isolation for something he did, and like the guys from Earth come by and they're just like, "Hey, bro, we know you're lonely up here, so we just got you like this companion bot." Right. And so, like, it's the only thing he can talk to. It's the only thing he can relate to. So he, like, starts treating it like an actual person because of his isolation. But the reality is, like, she's not capable of higher thought. She's not capable of having her own experiences. She's not capable of, like, actually being an actual human being. And so as a result of that, she's kind of worthless. Like, his fixation on her, like, treating her like an actual person, like, it doesn't result in anything positive at all. Like, she is just a machine. And that's the problem with Pragmata. That's, like, the issue with Pragmata, where it's doing the exact opposite, where it's doing everything it possibly can to neglect the reality of the narrative that Diana is a fucking robot, she's a fucking clanker, and that you can't, like, she's not a real person at all. Like, again, it's so interesting how this game, like, sets up this idea that, like, Hugh is prejudiced against robots and AI and then does nothing with that just to push this angle that, like, well, Diana's different. Like, she's different, bro. She gets me. She's my daughter. Like, no, she's not, actually. And I do think this is, like, one of the big major things about Pragmata, and why I see it as, like, so disgusting is that the WEF and the globalists, like, they have pretty much complete domination over women, and they have for a long time. But, like, what they're trying to do now is, like, trying to get control over men. And generally speaking, that's not happening, because you're seeing more and more people, like, go back to church, expand their skill set, reject feminism, reject, like, woke ideology. And, like, this is their attempt at trying to, like, placate you, of, like, getting you back on the plantation, of just, like, showing up to your job and then coming home to your, like, AI robot daughter food. Okay? Like, that's where they want you. And it's something that does need to be rejected. It's something that I do think is, like, disgusting and should be addressed as, like, one of the most pathetic attempts at, controlling men I have ever seen.